Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review. In this video I'm going to review Dissidænce episode 2 by Vitalic. Vitalic is a French electronic producer and this is the second Dissidænce album. The very first one was released not that long ago, the previous year, which was a clear indication that there's gonna be a sequel in the future. And in my opinion, the very first Dissidænce album was pretty decent. I would say though that it was certainly not one of the strongest moments in Vitalic's whole catalog. The album felt pretty short without having that much to offer, and most of the sounds and the approaches felt kinda basic for Vitalic's sound. It would go more into a bit of an acid techno direction. However, for the most part, I felt that we've heard similar stuff from Vitalic done better in the past. I mean, obviously, it's really hard to reach the levels of albums like OK Cowboy and Flash Mob. However, I still found that the results in this first episode were pretty decent. Getting into episode 2, I didn't necessarily have high expectations out of it, but I would say that it's an improvement in comparison to the first one. I ended up liking many more elements about this album and really feeling like an improvement in all fronts, even though this is another album that I would say shares many elements that we've known from previous works in Vitalic. I think that they're much better implemented here. It is a bit more aggressive album. I think that it nicely focuses a little bit more on the acid techno stuff, giving it a bit more of an identity, as the first episode felt a little bit all over the place in some parts, and it also contains, in my opinion, some of the greatest sound choices that I've heard from Vitalic in years. Some of the sounds and the electronics and the beats that Vitalic would use might feel kinda weird at times, and I like that I kinda get that feel back with episode 2 right here. The track Sirens is actually one of the greatest stuff I've heard from Vitalic recently. For me, Sirens is undoubtedly the greatest track Vitalic has done in lots of years. It really gave me a throwback to some of the stuff that would make albums like OK Cowboy and Flash Mob so appealing to me. This track contains the signature Vitalic sound, from the way it's produced, from the sound choices, from the way it's structured. I think that this is an incredible song from start to finish. It has some amazing melodies to it. I like how addictive and catchy it is, and it's just a really great song. And I like the direction that it also takes afterwards. Dancing in the Street is also, I'd say, one of the most powerful moments in this album. It is slightly more aggressive and intense compared to Sirens. It doesn't really focus that much on melodies, rather than being a monotone, hard-hitting techno song for the most part, and I think that it works pretty well for what it does. I think the sounds that it contains are pretty cool, and yeah, I'd say this is one of the highlights of this album. Friends and Foes, in my opinion, keeps the quality strong. This is one of the most melodic tracks out of the album, and it also manages to give a nice throwback to some of the stuff that would appeal to me in some of the first albums of Vitalic. It would be one of those songs that would go into those more melodic and soothing directions that, in my opinion, in terms of the track Friends and Foes, it works pretty nicely. It's another one of those tracks that manages in its own way to keep the signature sound of Vitalic. Even though the highlights of this album end for me right there, I believe that what the rest of the album provides is still pretty decent. The track The Void is another pretty cool, hard-hitting acid techno moment. It kind of shares some elements like with the song Dancing in the Street. I don't believe though that it's one of the best structured songs, as the final ambient portion kinda feels like it's dragging the song, it's not really adding that much there. Then the track The Light is a Train, even though it's the teaser track, I'd say that it's possibly my least favorite moment out of this album. I don't really think that it provides all that much in terms of having the greatest sounds or being the best in terms of its structure. I believe that this track gets a bit repetitive after a while. It is kinda one-dimensional, and I don't think that it has the best pacing throughout this whole album. It is a pretty decent track overall. I liked some of its elements, but I wasn't impressed with this track in particular. Then I was kinda intrigued with the directions out of the track Marching. A pretty short moment, but I really got caught off guard with the extremely distorted beats out of this one, and in its own way managing to be the most aggressive and the most experimental moment out of the album. I haven't really heard Vitalic go that much in direction like this, and even though it's not that much of a fleshed out song, it's more of an experimentation, I think the fact that Vitalic took this risk, it's actually pretty intriguing to see. Finally, there's the track Winter is Coming, which doesn't have a beat attached to it. It is mostly an ambient song that focuses mostly on synths, and I wouldn't say that it's one of the strongest moments over here. I like the melodies out of it. I think it's a cool sounding song, and I like that towards the end it has this intense progressively distorted portion, but apart from that, I think that it's mostly a one-dimensional and kinda boring song. So I liked episode 2, but still there's not really that much to it. It is a pretty short album, it's only 30 minutes long and it's only 7 songs, but I would say that this certainly feels like an improvement compared to the very first album, and for the most part I'm pretty pleased with the results. This is a much more consistent album and it's actually one of the greatest albums that I've heard from Vitalic in a really long time. I'm gonna give Dissidænce episode 2 a 7 out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it, dislike it, why, and what do you come with review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.